Tibbers fights the nasty dragon. Ooh, let me. No, he's mine. Hey, Tibbers is stupid. No, he's not. Give him back.
What did you do?
She took Tibbers.
What is wrong with you?
It was an accident.
Daisy started it.
Oh, did she now? Well, I'm sure she didn't mean to. You'll be playing together before you know it, okay? I promise, Firefly. You can't blame Annie. She is still our daughter.
No. Your daughter's a monster.
How could you say that?
You know it's true.
Well, welcome everyone to the EU LCS studio. I've seen it a couple of times already, but it always shakes me to the core.
I'm slightly depressed right now.
Let's bring the energy back up, guys. Annie, fun to play champion.
Yeah,
really engaging in the mid lane.
I think it's because so many people also have memories. It's one of the champions you kind of always pick up in the process of learning. So definitely it's close to home and a wonderful, wonderful animation. But as said, we do need to move on. Let's get back onto the previous game. Player of the game for that G2 match was Jankos with 55% of the votes. We asked some questions. When is Jankos gonna step up and do it the entire game? And he did everything right. Amazing.
He did. He was able to actually recover from some early invades from Centaur and actually returned the favor. Like, he controlled the map, especially towards the bottom side early. And from Jankos, I wanted to see more late game decision making, and the whole team was clean as they can be.
Yep,
So.
and 2-0 for G2.
Yeah, I think many fans are going to be very happy. They looked at this roster and they saw this could be the new European super team, and to have some of the star players like Jankos and Perk step up in this kind of an environment, definitely what fans want to be seeing.
Great stuff from them. And now for our final game of the week, we have Misfits Gaming going up against Splyce after reaching the summer finals and having great success on the international stage. Misfits are now looking at the European throne. And so far, it's going pretty good for them, I would say. And I'd like to open the floor up to my analysts. I know you guys have been talking about this a lot. Are Misfits the best team in Europe, Vedius?
Yes. Do you agree?
No.
Okay.
Vedius,
Let's begin the debate. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the negatives for Misfits. I'm going to get them out of the way. They start in the middle lane. I do believe that Senkux right now is struggling. He isn't having the same sort of impact that he used to have on Splyce. I feel like that he's still figuring out how to gel with the team, and the fact that they are losing in the middle lane means that they don't look as confident in the early game like they used to with Power of Evil. Now, to compensate for that, I think that they have extremely good macro game. I think they are the best Baron taking team in the entire league, and I think that their late game decision making and shot calling is on another level compared to every other team. We've seen it multiple times where they've been in deficits and found ways to come back, and I think that so many of the players are playing so consistently well that they sit atop Europe right
Amazing.
now.
What don't you agree with in that?
Oh, so many things. But I'm going to focus on one thing, and for me, it is or two things, actually. The over-reliance on Hansama to carry them through late-game teamfights, and the second thing, again, over-reliance on mistakes of enemies. I think there were 3 games that they could have easily lost. I think against Vitality, they were down early. They could have easily lost that game. Against Fnatic, they could have easily lost that game if Fnatic just was able to close out in a 5v4 situation. And I think even against HDK, they were even until a certain point. They are not consistently beating teams in the early to mid game. I want to see more of that for me to think that they're the best team in Europe.
So logical question. If they're not the best team in Europe, who is then, according to Maurice?
Vitality.
Yeah, right. I thought you were going to say that, and I think that is because you think that in the early game they are more proactive and they play the way you like to see it played, which is action-packed. But maybe that's not the style Misfits want to go for, and they're still winning.
I'm a control jungler myself, obviously, but so I don't actually mind this late game style, because obviously, like in Origin, whatever it is, I had this going for me, but I want people to actually want the win and take it away from the enemy instead of just like, I guess we're winning
my
now.
counter argument to that is right now the reason why they're forced to play late game is because of the issues that Senkux is having in the middle lane. The fact that they are playing so well, even with this detriment, you talked about the damage
Why are they the best
distribution.
in Europe if they have such a liability in the mid lane that they need to
It is a
resolve?
liability, but it just goes to show how well they are playing, even with this liability. To me, like the fact that Hansam and Alfari is stepping up so dramatically to compensate for this weakness, I think makes them an incredibly strong team. And the moment Senkux gets back on form, this will be a clean-cut, dominant top team.
Well, we will put a pin in this, and I think I will contrast both opinions as the weeks go on and as the teams evolve.
No,
but if we focus in on a specific matchup, you guys mentioned Hansama, and I want to put the spotlight on Hansama versus Kabi. The Fisho said yesterday, and I think a lot of us agree, Hansama is at this moment the most complete, the best AD carry in Europe. If we look on Splyce, Kabi has been the most consistent player on that roster, so this matchup really has me hyped. How do you guys think it's going to go?
Ooh, I think in terms of how it's going to go, Hansama right now, the issue is that for Splyce, I think that the entire team is playing around Kobe, whereas right now they're just, for Misfits, they rely on Hansama to perform rather than invest and expect him to be the star, because you look at players like Alfari and Max Thor kind of being on the front line and helping him carry. all of the onus is on Kobbe. So I think there's just a slight difference in where the team focuses them, but they're both extremely talented and very consistent.
Before we move on, Amazing, I did want to just ask you about one point that you brought up. You said Splyce is unlucky Misfits. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, what I think happened to Splyce in multiple games is that like the mistakes that lead to Misfits wins are the mistakes that Splyce are basically doing, if that makes sense. So in games that they're losing, they're the ones that make like this small macro call or the small teamfight call that basically loses the complete game. So in an alternative universe, they will be where Misfits are, and I think Misfits will be where Splyce is. Obviously not necessarily, but we get the idea.
So if I would ask for predictions, Vedius would obviously predict the best team in Europe according to him, Misfits to
That
win.
is correct.
But Maurice, are you willing to bet on Splyce?
If the game goes late, I see Splyce winning.
If. Well, I guess it's a Misfits vote, then we'll see what happens.
Splyce is going to win. Splyce is going to win.
We've got a big matchup in store here to close out the week. Let's throw it over to Pyra and the Fishio to call the game.
Thank you very much, Shocks. All right, well, let's not waste any more time since we got all that pregame out the way. Let's check out our starting lineups. On the blue side, it is going to be Misfits. And I honestly really agree with the desk here. If I'm looking at one of these 5 guys, it has got to be Hans Sama. The dude is bonkers.
Yeah, I mean, great Worlds performance from this guy, and he's showing here in the 2018 season that he's just keeping, that level at the very, very top. And it's a pleasure watching him teamfight at the moment, but they need more members, of course, around him. And Senkuk's in the mid lane. We are looking at him this game. We want to see him beat Niski.
There are some question marks, and of course, facing off against them is the Splyce boys. Not just Niski, but also Odo, Xerxes, Kobbe, and Kasing. I think that bot lane matchup is still going to be the one to look at.
Yeah, and especially later on in the game, because we don't see big advantages in the early game between the two bot lanes very often, but instead we had Zillion from Kasing, the Caitlyn from Kobbe, the Pentakill. Like, that's the kind of duo we want to see. So late game, Splyce can win some of these big team fights. But now I just want to get into pick and ban phase, because we've had some interesting picks show up today. Still biggest fan of the brand support, despite a little bit of
There's still time for it to get a win,
A guy like Kasing can definitely play brand support.
Well, we'll see if it ends up happening. Now, we are loading up into picks and bans. We saw Peter Dunn on the screen just before the pick and ban started, and he had some things to say about their draft yesterday. He said, it was the worst one he's ever had in his career up against G2. Unfortunately, 8.2 meta from scrims was vastly different than what ended up happening on stage. No way to win with that composition, and G2 completely outdrafted them. Next time it's going to be better. Well, it's time to put up or shut up.
I think he overreacts a little bit. I think the draft from Splyce could definitely have won the game. Not saying that I think it was the greatest in the world, but I don't think that was the main reason they lost. Instead, they actually got caught out quite a lot towards the late game and ended up always losing a member just before the teamfight started, which was a problem for Splyce.
That's the unlucky that it made.
The unlucky fact is, this guy just died, now we play 4v5.
That's what I always tell my teammates when it happens to me.
Dude, Alfaro did the same thing. He pulled a Pyra. He walked in.
Is that what we're calling it?
He died in the late game. He said, game is over, boys. Fnatic felt confident walking in 5 members to finish the game, and then Hans Sama stepped up and won the entire team fight and won the game.
Yep.
And Senkuk's as well was actually good in that fight.
And Alfaro even was cheekily saying he did that one on purpose. All right,
exactly.
Let's zero in on the bans, because we got a Azir and a Ryze off the table. We got Caitlyn and Kalista off the table. We also have the Zoe being Rue. So 3 mid laners that Sejuani hadn't mentioned it either, but that takes a backseat and a nice little hover.
Taunting Odoamne, who also wrote on Twitter that Maokai was useless. He hates playing that champion.
Speaking of ban phase is all about Twitter, man. Okay, so it's a first pick Galio Misfits game.
There's still a card more here for Kobbe that he can grab if he wants that for guaranteed late game success on the side of Splyce, and a good rage play power spike, but you gotta be careful then against champions like Galio and Camille potentially, or Jarvan Galio who can dive onto the back line. And AD carries without any jumps can't really get away from it, and that's why I think it is a wise decision on Splyce's side to say Tristana instead. She does have a jump, and then she can actually peel for herself.
Yeah, Kobbe has played quite a lot of AD carries for having only 5 games so far in the spring split, and Tristana's one of them.
First time he's playing a champion more than once.
Yeah.
So far in this split. Let's see what the next one. Zac has become a highly contested pick.
With or without Sejuani available.
Right, yeah, we've actually seen him picked also when Sejuani is banned, but his gank potential is very high, and then in the late game, of course, with his ulti, if he doesn't connect to the back line, he can use that to swoop someone back, and I think he's a strong pick, especially for late game team fights, but Jarvan is still fine, or you go later down, or you go further down the jungle pool, and there are picks like Jax in there that we've already seen some success. I'm happy the Skana kind of died instantly after it was picked up, because I'm not the biggest fan of him.
Gave it an attempt, yeah, but What hasn't died this game, the Tom Kench was left up and available.
Oh, it hurts.
It's paired with the Kog'Maw, so that is a really safe, really scary late game.
So Corki here was the one I was kind of looking at for Niski. It is one of the choices against Galio because Corki, with the strong scaling, doesn't really get punished early game by Galio, and he can just kind of sit and farm nicely into the late game. And then running a double AD carry comp against what now is typically an AP Galio is very effective, because if Galio is trying to taunt you, you can kill him very fast. He's not as tanky as he used to be with the new builds, and double AD carry can work really effectively against it. Misfits were happy giving or allowing Splyce to potentially ban the Jarvan. They didn't grab it early on because they wanted to secure a very safe, strong late game bot lane for themselves. I like the Camille ban. Already mentioned the Jarvan Camille combination, and also the Jarvan and Galio. Same thing with Camille Galio. Dive the backline, keep them in place, smack Galio ult. I actually think Splyce on their side could decide to ban the Jarvan here away from Maxlore if they want to.
One more. The Braum is also removed. So Kasing won't have a chance to pair that up with Kavi's Tristana.
And we know he can play Zilean.
Gangplank ban. Yeah, we do know that for sure. We saw Kavi going crazy when he was given the speed boost.
Ornn is still available in this draft, and we've seen him still banned away despite some of the nerfs to his W that happened here on patch 8.2. And with the GP ban, I think that is a safe choice for Uramnen. Up in top lane here with Alfari, he's been playing a lot more carries recently, but he can just grab Cho'Gath if he just want to go tank versus tank. Be happy with that and say, listen, we just need a super strong front line to protect Hansama behind us. That will be fine for him. Now, if you want a bit more split push pressure, is also available.
Okay, well, with a couple of seconds still eking it out, Misfits certainly thinking about that one, and makes a lot of sense. Locked in for Alfari, and even Mickey can't resist trolling Odoamne.
Now, this Ornn can be subbed down to the support role. Support Ornn is still available or viable, meaning Odoamne can counterpick top if he wants to. Jace is on the table if you want to try and grab that one and see if he can shut down this now here. But we're still waiting for the jungler, taunting everyone with the Scanner, and there's the Jax we talked about earlier, still being one of the strong picks available.
All right, so that's locked in. Now, all that's left to answer is do Splyce.
Give me Brand, come on,
themselves
Kasane.
up.
You're against a Tom Kent, it's perfect for Brand.
I mean, it's risky.
It is. Zilean is all. If
But
you want,
Zilean is definitely
game,
more the comfort level for Kasane.
Yeah, for late game, Zilean is definitely perfectly fine here. If you want to try and win lane a bit harder, then Brand is there for you. Janna also available if you want another range support that can try and disengage against the Jax.
But it's the Zilean.
It is Kasane, and that means it's Zilean.
Okay, so looking down the line at the composition, Splyce, you talked about double AD carry, you talked about a fair amount of pressure, a good balance with the tanks in the top and in the jungle. You've got the Zilean ultimate, means that you can have a little bit of fearlessness if you're Kavi. But for Misfits Gaming, that is a very scary late game.
It is, because they have Hansama, but I'm looking at Gnar and Galio and saying against double AD carry on the other side, they can struggle late game. Because they will build some damage on their side. They won't just be full tanks who can sit in front of an AD carry for 10-15 seconds. And these AD carries, with a Zilean behind them to protect whichever one is getting caught, I favor that in the late game. So I think on the side of Misfits, we need to see the proactive Galio. The Galio who's forcing plays. On top side, they have a Gnar sitting. They grab for Alfari instead of taking a Cho'Gath. That is a lane they can look to try and play around if Ornn is pushing the Gnar down to his turret.
Well, we have talked a little bit about Senkook's struggles on this team. Let's see if he's going to be able to turn that perception around on this Galio early on in the game.
But this is where Senkooks will shine. He's very good at playing these mid laners with less about him being the carry and more about playing around the two side lanes where Hansama and Alfari, the main carries of Misfits, are sitting.
Yeah, all about them roams too. And all eyes will be on Senkooks. And where he decides to go on the big gargoyle. For the Splyce boys. Let's see what they can do in this game. Sitting at 2-3 right now is a hard-fought loss they had against G2 yesterday. A really rough one where they were knocking on the door over and over again for them to come back in and shut down what a lot of people are looking at as being the, if not one of the top European LCS teams here in Europe. That would be a massive boost to their confidence. Here in the end of week 3, it's the final game. We're loading up onto Summoner's Rift one more time.
Let's see what Misfits can do with Galio, Jax, Gnar on the top side. Try and see if they can control the scaling Corki. And of course there's Ornn in lane. On patch 8.2, Ornn lost the ability to be unstoppable when he uses his W, the little dash when he flies away. So you can CC him and lock him down when that happens. It makes it a bit easier to try and shut him down early. That is one of the options for Misfits on their side. And Maxlor yesterday ran Spellbook on his Sejuani, swapped to TP after the early game was over. Didn't get to use it very effectively for himself and had to go back to Smite later. But it was a very interesting strategy from Misfits' side.
It does seem like in a lot of ways Misfits are one step ahead of most of the competition, if you will. And I think that's a large part of why they found themselves here at 4-1. I mean, this is a team that is really impressed, that is, you know, made some changes, but for the most part, maybe side grades. I mean,
For now.
Senkook's definitely not as much of an impact as Power of Evil, but...
Yeah, I mean, instant side grades, and then according to Misfits, upgrades down the line. The team is going to function better, be able to progress better, reach a new high after what we saw last split, where that famous BU5 against SKT that we Europeans will hang on to forever. We will never forget that BU5.
Yeah, and it was humble beginnings, too. I mean, they had a year plan. That was get to Worlds. They did that and more. Senkook's starting off at the Whoa, Maxlor, hello! Level 2 Flash.
Jeez, trading for a flash for flash right there. Early gank against Niski.
Man,
can he return now? There's a TP on Niski's side. No cleanse to get out of a taunt from a Galio or stun from a Jax. Senkook can flash taunt towards Niski, and then suddenly that might be a kill for Misfits if they return gank. Splyce can just ward around mid lane. They already have 2 wards placed to try and protect Niski.
Yeah, definitely going to need it. Now, he's pushing forward right now. We talked a little bit about Senkook struggling, but yeah, Niski, I feel like he's had a bit of a rough go of it up against the pool of European mid laners after he's returned from NA.
It's been a rough start, but let's be real. NA mids versus EU mids. EU mids will always...
Yeah, he was playing on easy mode.
There you go. Now he gets to play against some real mid laners, and then NA takes some of the real mid laners and basically a bunch of EU mids in NA anyway.
It's the circle of life.
Luckily, we have enough EU mids that there's room, or there's enough to fill up every team in the West with EU mid laners.
Just about. All right. Now, much has been made, of course, of the AD carry matchup. But of course, when there's a Kog'Maw in the mix, we're going to be waiting pretty late into the game before that really becomes the big story of the game. So we'll talk about that a little later. I want to see what else Maxlor does, because anytime you open up a game with a level 2 flash into the mid to try and get that kill, he's got a game plan in mind.
Of course. I mean, he hoped to get that early kill. He had to start a red buff, get instant level 2, and then go for the play. Bot lane, meanwhile, a range support versus Tahm Kench obviously means that Kiseng will try and win the poke war, but you gotta respect that damage coming from Tahm Kench Q. If you get hit by a few of those, it does hurt quite a lot in return, but it is in favor of Splyce right now with the push. Mainly though, you pick Zilean for late game, not for early game. You want to get to the point of the game where you just perma-speed up your AD carry. That AD carry runs forward with 5-6 items and just shoots everything in the face. And when that AD carry gets caught, you Zilean ult to him, and he gets a pentakill. That's how it works, Pyre.
It's a pretty simple game plan, and it worked out pretty well for Kabe already. So, and this is why it's so hype. It's, you know, Hans Sama, one of the greatest AD carries we have in Europe right now, of course, against Kabe, the first pentakill of the season. But before this bottom lane gets too explosive, I want to go back to the jungles for just a second. Maxlor, he had a pretty proactive start, but Xerxes has also been very proactive for this Splyce team. It's a different kind of Xerxes, new haircut, and all of a sudden he's a new player.
He's been trying to play more around his laners, which is what you can see with the high jungle proximity to the left. But as you can see, with kills plus assist, he's very far down on the jungle list in Europe. He's not getting a lot, but he's mainly there for just potential counter ganks, add security, set up vision, and he's not the guy who's snowballing a lane, and that's never been his style. He's always been very focused on scaling junglers, where he values his own farm above his laners, and it is fine if your team can then consistently, you know, survive laning phase without you being very proactive and ganking for them. But sometimes with this Splyce lineup, especially in the mid lane, and also in the top lane, we have seen Oramne and Niski get punished early game by other junglers, where Xerxes was not there to help them.
That is true. It's definitely against the natural tendencies, but he's on this champion, Zac, that we have seen be so crucial, so critical to trying to make some early game plays. Of course, he is being zoned out of his own jungle. This is something else we've seen today. Zac's getting
he gets the
pretty much
though.
aggroed on. Yeah, he's going to pick up most of it. So Maxlor gets out scot-free, but doesn't pick up too much for his trouble. And there's all the TPs. Some of them spellbook, some of them not.
Yeah, 4 TPs for Misfits right now. Cannot pick 5 because Maxlor went with press the attack, which is the normal go-to choice on Jax, where it's all about landing as many auto attacks as possible on your targets. Can be hard to utilize it in team fights, where typically you get just a few hits off and then someone has already died or jumped away. But in this case here, we got double TP bot lane, as we see so often. On the other side, I will assume that Kasing, you can't see it yet, but he's probably running Airy. Seeing as it is necessary if he wants to build Ardent Sensor in this game, because then when he speeds up Copy, the Airy applies, and therefore also procs the Ardent Sensor onto the AD carry. But I will remind you guys about that later, once he completes it, and we get all the runes on screen.
Yeah. Ardent Sensor. Something we hear a little bit less these days than we used to. That was a fun meta in the last year.
Was it? Yeah, okay. It had its moments. It also definitely was...
It had too many of its moments. That was the problem.
Too many moments.
About as many as we have stopwatches.
Towards the end, people were like, okay, we're done with Ardent Sensor, let's move on. And then we did move on to stopwatches and spellbooks.
And everything else. It's a very magical meta right now. Senkuk's finding Niski. Xerxes as well. It's a lot of damage being dealt, but Maxlor's looking to come in. He hops, he gets the leap strike, and the counter strike. That's first blood over to Senkuk's.
That first gank from Maxlor put that flash on cooldown, and for Niski, it's just ready in like 2 seconds from now, so he could not get away. We asked for a return gank, and we got it towards the mid lane. So advantage over to Misfits. Can they now unlock this Galio and his ultis to move either top or bot lane to make something happen? Bot lane, you gotta get through a stopwatch on Copy and a Zillion ulti very soon. You can't focus on Kasing though, he's squishy early on, and you can try and take him down.
That's true. Still pre-6 right now. Kabi will get that level up, but Kasing doesn't have it yet, so he won't have the Chrono Shift. Let's see if they can get something done. Now, the Jax is going to be making a trip down bot. However, there is a deep ward there. They're going to know that he's on Krug camp. Let's take a look at a replay while we're waiting for it. Started pretty innocuous. They got the knock-up and the taunt.
Smack, not a whole lot for him to do, seeing as he's missing flash. Xerxa is here around him, getting that jungle proximity up. Sadly, he can't really help his mid laner, who's sitting with just a few seconds on that flash. He's probably spamming the flash key at this moment, I don't know, Pyra.
That was a long moment.
And at this moment at the same time, but he's still spamming that flash key.
At this point, I don't know what to think, man. Yeah, that feels bad when you're almost getting it off cooldown. And here we go. Xerxe going up towards the top. He finds Alphari, almost the Mega Gnar. Call the Forge God. It's going to whip, but Odoamne redeems himself by flashing forward for the kill.
Nice gank right there. Splyce had to use both flashes to get the kill, but they do shut down Alphari a little bit. And
they burn his flash, too.
Burn his flash, yeah. Odoamne can, of course, just push out and finally complete, or get closer to his first item in the game here. And this Ornn, it's all about ultis in the late game. The cooldown was nerfed on it, which was a necessary nerf.
Yeah, we saw a couple weeks ago why.
Yeah, it was just up like every 36 seconds, basically. Maxlor wants to fight.
Okay, finds Odoamne. He's gonna get dashed.
Odoamne,
see, there's the counter strike. Odo, he could be in some trouble. Oh boy, now there's minions there, but Maxlor don't care. He keeps smacking them. One more, that's all he needs.
Jax mechanics, everyone.
Auto attack.
Land a stun, then you auto, then you use W for your reset, then you auto again, and eventually you will kill someone if they can't flash away from you. Nice return kill here for Misfits, and very important that Jax gets the kill.
Okay, look at how low Kabi is right now. Don't look at that, look at the replay.
Alright, this is the first gank. Nice setup, good stun from Odoamne. Then Alphari getting chain CC'd until he tries to jump away, but still gets hit by the ult, and he will die. And then we get the sickest outplay of Maxlor's life. Look how he goes in. Here, auto attacks, W's. Then he jumps in with Q, stuns him, and he auto attacks him again.
Don't forget about the red buff tick. That did a lot of work.
That's true. And he had to flash too, of course.
Boom.
Jax mechanics.
What a brave man through that line of minions. Take himself a well-earned blue buff. On his own side. He's going to give it over to Senkuk's, though.
You want to know a fun fact, Pyra?
Tell me, Deficio.
Junglers in the EOLCS this split, they've had 2 solo kills. Only 2 solo kills.
Really?
Both of them from Maxlor.
Best jungler confirmed?
Best jungler, at least solo killing people.
Okay,
no one else is doing it, apparently.
Yeah. Well, nicely done, Maxwell. You got that in your trophy case.
Most of them also playing tanks who can't really solo kill anything.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, we usually see this Jax going pretty tanky, and we can obviously see that trend, but that's the thing. Maxlor can still solo kill people.
Never-ending debate. Should a Jax after Cinderhold go full tank, or Trinity Force and Sterix? Those are the 2 choices we get. Either you go Cinderhulk and straight into another tanky item, or you go for some damage with that Trinity Force here and you try and actually be a little bit more of a threat when it comes to 1v1s and reaching the enemy backline and get a few hits off. See what Maxlor wants to do. He's up, 1 kill, 1 assist, so there's a bit of extra gold in his pockets if you want to get the Trinity Force.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I guess it depends on what kind of player you are, right? Do you want to be a team player? Do you want to win the team as 5, feel good? Or do you want to just carry everything?
Yeah, I mean, isn't that technically also winning for your team?
Yeah.
Both of them kind of counts, I guess.
No, it's a good point.
Do you want to be the damage dealer or do you want to be the support? That's kind of what you're going to look at. In this game here, they have a lot of damage from Mansama and, of course, some AP damage coming in from Senkux, but there's room for Maxlor to build damage. And
yeah, and to solo Dragon.
Yeah.
Pretty easy. I mean, all the junglers are in the bottom right now as well, and we could be in for a little bit of a fight, but Maxlor's going to be a little late. He's bringing Hans Sama and Mickey X over to help him out with this one, and let's actually talk about those AD carries once again, because we hit on this quite a lot over the course of the early game, and now it's starting to get real relevant here. Hans Sama, man's been a beast.
He's been fantastic in late game team fights, 100%.
So is Kabi, though.
Kabi, same thing. And Kabi's laning phase with Kasing has been fairly solid, at least when it comes to trying to gain some early advantages. And it's been the best lane for Splyce, bottom lane. It's been where most of their wins have been coming from. And they're looking to get Kabi in a late game situation here, together with Niski on the Corki, and then have Kasing just sit back and protect these 280 carries.
Yeah, you mentioned that's kind of what you preferred in this matchup, just because of the way they picked the champions, because of the fact that Kabi's on such an explosive carry in the way that they built out this comp. But it seems like it's still very even right now. Small advantages Misfits' way.
Rage play is completed though from Hansama's side, so he's fairly strong, a lot stronger now than the Infinity Edge rush on the other side. Ooh. Let's see if they can do something here with Amna. He's safe for now.
Insta-flash.
Also before though, with that Infernal Drake, when you have Galio mid, you don't even have to pull off the ulti. You just go out of vision. And the enemy team is like, okay, he could ult bot lane. So Splyce just had to constantly allow Misfits bot lane to push first because Senkux was out of vision. And then they go for Dragon. What's happening here?
Well, Mickey X is swallowing up Hans Sama. That's what's happening. As the Forge God gets a little extra damage. First the flash, he still gets hit by it. Oh, that puppy's getting toasted. He's going to have to walk away.
Mickey flash to 80 carry. Flash to him. Too far away. Otherwise he would have done
a little bit. But I wanted to talk more about that mid lane because we talked about Senkux and his need to be proactive on this Galio, or his ability to be checking in other lanes. The threat's been there, but we haven't seen him make those big ultimate plays to get involved.
Yeah,
not just yet.
Not used it just yet. Didn't find an opening top list
everywhere.
Maxlor.
Okay, there's the stun, the auto. Got the slowdown. Does he have enough damage to kill the Kasing? I don't think so, but Mickey X is going to save his life, and he licks the support from Splyce, and now it is going to be some stopwatches, but a whole heaping helping of damage. Misfits for the dive. Xerxes coming in a little bit late, and there is the hero's entrance. Let's see if Xerxes is going to be able to get away. He avoids the taunt.
Great tower dive, though, from Misfits up top lane here. They first used Maxlor to tank it, then they reset it due to the Devour from Mickey. And while he almost died, he still has stopwatch ready to further reset the tower aggro if needed. I like to play jump kissing first, no stopwatch on this guy. Get him to use ulti on himself and then switch over to Kabi when you can. Mickey, make sure that Maxlor doesn't die, and now Mickey's tanking it. Can use, of course, the extra HP from the shield coming in, and in case he almost dies, stopwatch is there, but realize he actually could just walk away from this one, and they do not get a kill on Xerxes, but they will get the turret now. Nice aggressive play from Misfits, using the advantage with the Rage Blade, and of course Maxlor's Jax.
Yeah, and that's the end of all that would happen earlier on with Hans Sama and Mickey coming up early to the top side.
Good coordination, like Week 1, we saw Misfits try and make some of these plays where they would tower dive early game, and the coordination wasn't there, and G2 punished it, but this one here, perfect tower dive with the resetting from the Tahm Kench and the Jax.
Now we're starting to see the coordination coming in. Now, Maxlor's going to win the Smite fight. Easy to do when you're up against an AD carry. Doesn't have Smite on that red buff. So now the eyes are on the mid lane prize. Niski backing away, and Maxlor just coming straight through the jungle. Tahm Kench bringing Hans Sama as well.
Good
so
rotation.
Nice rotation on the globals to just pick off tower number 2. 15 minutes on the clock, and this is where Misfits start to pull ahead in the race.
And it's clean. We always talk about the 4 TPs and how hard it is to play against if it's utilized properly. We're seeing that here. Constant pressure in the lanes. You're never allowed to sit and recall without losing something on the side of Splyce. Tahm Kench ulti, add another semi-global, and Misfits are suddenly sitting with a 3,000 gold lead in this game. And they're controlling it.
Yeah, and not to mention the Infernal Drake. There's going to be another one of those, by the way, in a couple of minutes. And with the tempo advantage that they have, this could be trouble for Splyce. We've been talking about Splyce's late game and their ability to team fight, but Misfits in the mid aren't going to be, honestly, very weak either, especially the way this game is going.
And especially also because our good friend Max Lore wants to 24s.
Oh boy.
Sheen is in the house for now. Could fool us all and go Iceborne Gauntlet.
Well, you got 2 tanks on your side. Well, tank and a half.
Wait,
with
wait. Niski's bottling with the package.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, package Valk over. That's a special delivery in Alfari's favor, but he wants to return to sender. And he's going to chuck a rock back at the Corki and walk away. Nice escape. Buys Maxlor some time to start off on the Rift Herald.
Both TPs on cooldown from Odoamne and Niski, so they can't just go in here and actually stop this Rift Herald from going down. Another objective for Misfits. Can utilize that one down the bottom lane once the dragon spawns and then secure both a turret and another objective in just a minute's time. Alfari just needs to try and stay alive, and he did that with the last little... yeah, so keep the turret. Why not? I mean, Niski can take it down next time, but...
Yeah. And then Nars is starting to do some pretty good damage, too. Those 2 kills he secured up earlier on the top lane allowed him to complete the Black Cleaver. He's definitely starting to hit a little harder. Splyce finding their territory a little shortened here on this map.
We do have Kasing currently sitting next to Copy. We'll do that the entire game long. What you can do now with the new support items, where you don't have to buy the Sightstone itself, is you upgrade your just do your Frostfang. So just get the first upgrade. And then when you get the quest item completed with the 500 gold, it turns into, of course, the new Sightstone. And while it only gives you 3 charges on Eye of the Frost, the item he's sitting with now, that's fine. You don't have to fully upgrade it to get the 4th charge and a bit of extra HP, a little bit more AP as well. You can actually now rush towards a real item while still getting wards. And you don't have to spend another 1,000 gold on upgrading for a Sightstone. So at this point here, he can rush an Ardent Sensor, or a Mikhail's if he thinks he needs that for one of his 80 carries, and still sit with a discount Sightstone.
Frees up the wall of the supports.
It's just good, because then later you can fully upgrade Eye of the Frost and spend gold on that, but you don't have to do it at first if there's something important you need.
That's the big F. Now, what do Splyce need right now? I think towers might be a good answer.
Yeah, but in order to get the turrets, they might have to win a fight against Misfits, and you can see all 10 members around mid and bot lane looking for a potential fight near an Infernal Drake.
So shoving the waves back and forth. They might be keen to start this one off. They do have a lot of damage. It's double 80 carry comp.
Sadly, Kaseng did not get to finish his first item just yet in this game here, and Misfits are just controlling the mid lane and top because they have TP available on Senkuk's side.
FTP on 4
Oh, look at Cersei.
Okay, Sing going forward, gets the stun up onto Mickey X. Cersei forcing the flash out of the Misfits support. They hop back out. Copy, dodging the tongue. A couple more auto attacks. A lot of pings flying. See if they can catch on to Niski. No, here's the call of the Forge Gods. Going to catch up on Sama, and the knockup is going to land the Tom Kench way. Spits back out the Jack. Let's see how this fight's going to go. Kabi around the side. TP's almost completed. And here's entrances coming in. Short range for Senkooks. But the chasing on to Odoamne, and Maxlord is going to pick up the first casualty of this fight. And it looks like the last.
Oh, the engage was pretty good here from Odoamne, but the Tom Kench here to save the day. And then suddenly Splyce could not get onto Ansama and actually kill him, despite him dropping low. Niski looking for Maxlord bot. He has one of their many TPs.
Yeah, nearly got pincered there. 1 TP getting spent. Niski trying to retreat back with the rest of his team. Might need that blast going pretty quickly. He's got the Kasing ultimate on top of him. Is not going to need to use it, but he does burn his flash. Senkook's trying to go far forward, and Xerxes brings Mickey and Senkooks together before he pops his way out and tries to dodge away from that living artillery. Misfits just packing way too much firepower for these Splyce boys.
Fernal is still alive here, Pyra, but now we get Maxlow with the Rift Ult in mid, and then the team can go back and secure the very important Drake for the late game. Splyce, I like the fact they're trying to fight for it. They sadly are currently not sitting with enough items on their 80 carries to really be a huge threat against the front line of Misfits. If they can stall the game, we'll get that later. But it is now Misfits getting another Infernal Drake.
Yeah, that's trouble for Splyce right now. 2 Infernals given up. It really hurts, and we're getting to that 20-minute mark. It's a big gold advantage, big dragon advantage. Let's see this fight again that led to it.
Yeah, I like the engage here. Of course, Mickey can try and save Ansama at first. And now we gotta look, can anyone from Splyce dive onto Ansama? Odoamne tries with the flash, but Ansama escapes, dodges around here, does not get stunned. And then Odoamne is all alone in the backline of Misfits. And meanwhile, his own 80 carries, they're obviously playing the game where they're just hitting whoever's right in front of them. And Alfari stayed alive.
Yep. Somebody type, can someone focus the squishies, please? There's a lot of damage dumped onto Mickey X there, and he persevered through all of it.
Sadly, if you are playing a Corki or Tristana, it is difficult to jump through the enemy team and then hit the enemy AD carry. Can happen if you have the
well, you
package.
can do it, but you're probably going to die.
You're probably going to die for it, and then maybe it's not worth it. Or that AD carry's out of position, and then you find him and you punish him. Also a possibility. When you have a Zillion ult, you can do it. Be a little bit more confident. Didn't get to see who Kasing used it on in the last fight.
Sorry, nearly Meganar. Some nice shots on to Odoamne down bot side. So only the 2 towers Misfits way this game. Splyce haven't been able to find too much of anything, and they're losing ground around the Baron pit. Wards littering their jungle, and they're going to have to clean them out.
Bot lane, tier 1 turret is the only one remaining on the side of Splyce. They've not been able to take down a turret on the other side. Now Fari with the Black Cleaver will just keep sitting down here and just keep poking on Odoamne, and he can't really die 1v1. Niski might move down with the TP, or move down with the package and then TP back to a fight. But Misfits should be aware of that. If they see Niski missing for 30 seconds, they can call that he might be bot lane. And at the moment they're controlling the map. Maxlaw is hiding in here.
Yeah,
Could try and go for dive.
Misfits might just do that. Could be looking to close these jaws around the Splyce team. And here is Maxlor hopping onto his opposite number. Xerxes gets the hop away. He's fine. Game's up.
This is normally a pyro where Misfits are so good at controlling around Baron. They take almost no chances when it comes to setting up the Baron, and if they don't take that 50-50 we see other teams go for, they make sure to always then take the team fight instead, get out of the Baron pit and force the engage, or they make sure to stop the enemy jungler from getting into the Baron pit in the first place.
It's a safe setup. It's a clean setup. This is what this team is able to do. They're well coordinated, and it doesn't seem like they've had too many troubles with the few roster changes they have made, a lot of the cores there. Of course, things are a little bit different for this team, right? Like, they used to rely a lot more on the damage coming out of their mid laner, but things have definitely changed a lot. A lot more is on Hansama, a lot more is on Alfari.
A 10% jump for Hansama compared to 2017 summer with Misfits here. Of course, the breakout for Hansama was in playoffs and during Worlds, but these numbers are really, really good from his side. And of course, Alfari playing more of the carries on top side. So, Senkooks is not doing what Power Weevil did, and that was, of course, be like the main damage dealer.
Right.
Things like Orianna, Syndra was being played a lot.
Sometimes it was relied on. I mean, during the regular season,
it
it was almost a crutch, but then they changed things up quite a lot come playoffs and Worlds.
And now with the Senkooks, they have a player who's very good at playing things like Galio, Talia, these kind of
And
champions.
man, we saw Aurelion Sol already today.
Aurelion Sol could be another one where it's all about snowballing the side lanes. I still think we're going to get some games where Senkooks will be the main carry from the team, because the damage percentage doesn't always tell who's performing the best. It just shows which player is dealing the most damage on his team.
He's a different kind of mid laner for sure. Like, we used to thinking about mid laners as being these like hugely always carrying things, especially in Europe when they're making the flashy outplays. But Senkooks is just kind of cut from a different cloth.
I'm sure he wants to be the man who does
He's
all the
capable of
damage,
getting
or
big
deals all the
kills.
damage.
I've seen some sick plays out of that guy over the years. Remember when he joined Splyce and it was like LeBlanc every game?
And I remember how we hyped it as if he didn't do something, the team would lose every game, and then he had the 1 quarter kill on LeBlanc, and we probably showed that every single week for like 7 weeks of like, look, he did it once, but he did it.
Well, he was able to do it. And he did it on the side lanes too.
I actually still remember him being the Void King. Things like Kassadin and Malzahar all the time. That's where he really carried games for Splyce. See what happens in this game though, because the Galio performance so far been just fine. He's still building that AP build we see from most Galio mid lanes now. So again, it is a little bit more squishy compared to what we used to see. And if Niski and Copy gets to 3 items, they can burn through someone like Senkooks.
Yeah. Alfari is going to be a little bit harder, and even though Maxlor is going for more damage, he's still got the Cinder Hulk. He's still going to be pretty beefy. And we've already seen a number of fights, a number of picks. Maxlor is really making his presence known in this game. So Splyce, they have a lot to contend with up against this Misfits team.
I mean, look at how little farm Splyce are actually able to get on the map. They're not allowed to even look at the river. Their jungle camps will get contested every single time. Right there. Great example. Thank you, Misfits. So Splyce might get some of it, but they're not getting it without taking a fight around it, or potentially be forced into a bad team fight where Maxlor shows up behind them. It's very tough for Splyce at the moment. They're looking for some sort of engage, but they get spotted every time they're in the jungle by the wards from Misfits. And we're just kind of waiting for Misfits to be strong enough to do Baron, or look for that one pick first.
Well, in the meantime, too, they can do more than just that. There's going to be a Mountain Drake coming up soon that lets them continue to siege on these turrets. Misfits have definitely had all the objectives in their favor. And that Kog'Maw just keeps getting stronger and stronger.
And getting all the good Drakes for a team winning early game, that's for sure. Cersei and the rest of Splyce now get a chance during this reset to go out, push the lanes for one, see the river, and then you get pushed back.
And to his credit, partially thanks to his support, Kabi's got 2-level advantage on Hansama. The Tristan is going to be fairly strong. It's only 2 items. We want to wait for that 3rd item spike before he starts, you know, really getting explosive damage-wise. But he's going to be the key factor.
Now, Kazing
Ardent Sensors.
finally got his Ardent Sensor. Let's see what happens top.
Oh, here we go. Maxlor just turns around. Doesn't want to get caught in the wake of Niski, but he hops over to the Zac. Gets pulled along in for the ride and swallowed back up by Mickey X. Well, that's got to be disorienting.
Oh, Niski and Splyce might look for something here. Kabi jumping forward. He's sped up by the Zillion.
Yeah, but here comes Sencooks. Let's see if they can turn this around once more. Instead, both teams decide they don't want to take this fight.
If you want to play the Zillion at home, you can put a few ranks in Q early on, but then you max the E first. That's the one you want to get to rank 5. Kazing is sitting there right now, so he can speed up his AD carry. Ardent Sensor is completed, and as I said earlier, because he has Airy, when he uses the speed up on Kabi, it does apply, and the Ardent Sensor will proc.
This is a good move for Splyce, though. After what looked like it could have been a chase, ended up being Splyce opening up the top side of the map, opening up the mid of the map, grabbing some control back. So in one fell swoop, all of a sudden, they're controlling this side of the river, and would you look at that, they're going for the Mountain Drake.
See if they can do something here. Splyce feel more confident, looking for a fight. Kabi is strong at this point in the game.
Gotta be careful. Oh boy. Okay, Kabi's incoming. Force him back. Maxlor could still hop in for the steal. Don't know if he wants to do that. He had to burn his flash. Instead, he just takes the Blast Cone Express the other way. So Splyce, sigh of relief. They pick themselves up a Mountain Drake. Deny it away from Misfits. Have some control in this jungle.
Let's go. Oh, it gets so frustrating to play against because every time you do anything as Misfits, Kabi will run towards you with insane amount of movement speed and just start shooting you in the face. And if you try and jump on him, well, Zillion ulti will be there. So despite being down, despite having lost 2 Infernal Drakes, Splyce have not lost a Baron yet. They still have tier 2 turrets alive, and they're still scaling. They knew they could fall behind early against this Misfits draft, but they're getting stronger and stronger.
Well, you talked about late game. You talked about the bot lane. I mean, this is where the power is going to come from. This is what Splyce have had going for them. Yes, they gave up a fair bit early. Yes, they got pushed back. But all of a sudden, they've reasserted themselves. They've been able to push out. They've minimized their losses. Misfits haven't gotten any more but those 3 turrets. And despite the fact that the true Infernal Drakes have gone the way of Misfits, Splyce are showing that they're still equal to a fight.
And Maxlor, of course, with the damage build we talked about earlier, it's kind of the same deal as with the Galio. When he jumps in against double AD carry late game, he needs to be careful. He has a lot of damage to try and kill them fast, but he will also melt pretty quickly. Luckily, though, the Jax, with his ability to use Counter-Strike and some of the extra stats he will get from his ulti, can be a little bit hard to take down fast. Once those things are on cooldown, the Counter-Strike is what I'm referring to here, he dies.
Those are also safe AD carries, right? Kabi's got to jump. He can leap back. He can buster shot the moment he sees the Jax coming at him. And Niski can Valk away.
Yeah, and if Kazing gets a Mikhail's, then there's another way to cleanse away from a taunt, from a Galio or stun from this Jax. So we're really looking at Misfits to try and get this Baron down, or at least force a fight around it, while they're still feeling very good going into a team fight, because they've not been able to create a pick. Splyce have just been sitting and defending. Misfits didn't try and get any tower dives going with the tier 2 turrets. Sadly for them, against double TP, it is difficult as well to do. So now we are looking at Misfits around the Baron itself. Another reset coming in from Mickey. He's running TP on this time, Kensho. If he's needed, he can just TP back into the game.
It's always the TP advantage when you have 4 of them in the game. Well, 3 of them now, Hansama trading it away for a heal.
And there's a possibility that later he switches the TP to cleanse on the time Kench, just in case he gets hit by like a double bomb from Zillion. One important thing to highlight is, in a meta of stopwatches and hourglass, champions that can then apply some sort of CC just when you get out of that stasis does get a bit of extra value, and makes it a little bit harder to sit in the front line and know that you have stopwatch as your main safety, because once you get out, you might just get bombed instantly and get stunned.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, Splyce still sniffing around this mid. A lot of pings. They want to try and defend the top as well. Niski, very mobile wave machine. Yeah, Kabi. Oh, dude.
He's so fast.
It's like a cannon strapped to a Ferrari. It's insane.
And Misfits engage. If you look at it, it's mainly around Maxlord jumping in and then get the Galio ulti onto him. Otherwise, it's more of a kite comp.
And there it is.
Sama. They're trying now, but Galio's not in range just yet. Is nearby.
Oh my god, here we go. Speed boost. Kabi chunking him out, and then goes Xerxes for round number 2, trying to cut him off, but Mickey X swallows up the puppy. However, they're coming on in. That's a package valve for Niski. The blast cone is popped. Splyce reasserting themselves once more in this map.
Yeah, Misfits will struggle when it comes to killing the AD carries. So it's going to be a fight of who can kill the front line first. But it's both a Corki and a Tristana versus just Hansama.
Everyone's backing. Splyce, do they dare to try and start off that Baron? Do they feel confident enough in the 5v5?
They don't have to keep farming, keep scaling. More items on Niski, more items on Copy. Get Mikhails on Kasing, and then suddenly it's even harder to kill these AD carries. Love to double Warmocks on the front line of Splyce.
Yeah.
Because they're going to walk in, take a bit of damage from Hansama, back out again. Get all the HP back, and then you can do it over and over and over. Misfits, once again, looking towards the Baron itself, but they don't have any control in the jungle behind it. And it's really tough for them to actually stop the Baron, because Splyce are controlling mid lane with Copy and the movement speed from Kasing. So they don't have control mid to safely start the Baron, and knowing that Splyce won't remain. Look at this!
Oh, Kabi, he goes very aggressive right now, and they're looking for even more. The Tomcat swallowed up. Hansama gets the heal, and he's trying to walk it out under tower. However, he's getting pulled in, and Senko's trying to come right back. He brings Mickey X back to the team, who's in full retreat right now with teleport coming in. Alfari, that's a big Meganar! Let's see if Misfits can turn this fight around. There's a stun up, but Kabi staying alive as Alfari grabs the first kill of the fight. Onto Kasing, Xerxes gonna fall not long after, courtesy of Hansama. Maybe that sustains right now. It's a double kill for Alfari. That's a quick 3 kills.
If you can't reach the backline yourself, well, then you can wait for the enemy team to try and reach yours. Splyce forced the engage, and then suddenly Alfari appears behind him with a huge ulti here from the Gnar. The 2 AD carries are still alive on Splyce's side, but the entire front line died.
Things just got real, Deficio. Now it is Baron time for the Misfits. Xerxes down, no smite steal available, and that means it should be pretty easy for Misfits to clean this one up. And now they are in a commanding lead once more.
And Splyce, they were just farming and waiting. And suddenly they saw an opening. They jumped to start this fight here with the Tristana. So now the entire team is forced to follow and overextend. Behind them, there are a bunch of minions and a few wards that Alfari can TP onto. This ward here being used now. Mickey buys some time with the stopwatch, and then look at the ulti from Alfari. In the last second, he had the Meganar.
That was dirty.
That was so important for Misfits, and while the AD carries stay alive, as we talk about how hard it is to kill them, if you can just kill the front line, you can still win the fight. And with that Meganar in the last second, and with Splyce chasing for the kill, there was a big opening, and Alfari punishes the entire Splyce team.
Hero play.
Oh, yeah.
Collect the spoils of war. They get the Baron. They grab themselves the last Elemental Drake. It's another mountain. We've had such a game for impactful dragons. This is going to help that siege, to help them push down. And you got to think, now they got a little more firepower. Now they're getting that Kog'Maw nice and fed up. And now maybe is the time to start looking at diving in those tier 2s.
Well, it's not the end of the game just yet here. Splyce, they're definitely still in it. It's just Misfits are trying to see if they can get an inhib down, but they still got to get through the tier 2 turrets. And there's enough wave play with double AD carry on the side of Splyce, 2 guys with static shift on Copy right here, that it's not easy for Misfits to push. They have Alfari in the bottom lane trying to do what he can, but there's double TP. Or used to be. Odame swapped over to Exhaust actually this time around to be better in team fights. If he can get onto Hansama and use the Exhaust, that's one way to prevent the Misfits AD carry from dealing enough damage to kill the front line. But for now, it's Splyce once again stalling. This is going to be one of those 60-minute games of just non-stop team fighting in the end.
Oh boy. Well, maybe we'll see some more decisive fights. That one certainly was. Oh, Meganar. Oh, Alfari. Hello.
Good move here using Tahm Kench ulti and the pressure they have in all the lanes to just roam from mid lane to bot lane. That's one turret down.
They melt him.
1 minute 20 left on this Baron buff, Pyre. They're not getting an inhib for it.
No, but they did get 1 tower. Let's see if they can get any more. Roaming unit. No, they decide to just back away.
Elder Drake will be huge for Misfits if they can get it later with the double Infernal. Oh, they stopped on Sama's recall.
Hold on a second. Kabi finding the dog all isolated. That's a lot of damage. Oh, he wins the 1v2. Can he get it? Kazing. He's got it. It's a double kill.
He's still alive. He's dead.
Oh, but that was sick, man. Talk about a value play.
Holy moly, he killed Kabi in like 2 seconds.
All right, if there's any doubt in anyone's mind that is the best AD carry in Europe right now.
Well, he melted Kabi. Kazing had to use ulti on himself because he took all the damage at first. And suddenly, Misfits pushing for another turret.
Okay, not going to get much more. The siege machine's dead.
They stopped his recall when the entire team had already gone back to base. Let's see it again. So they're all recalling with the Baron buff. Hansama delays the recall by just a second. Gets interrupted because Kazing shows up. Okay, the fight is on. Exhaust early. Hansama's damage coming in. Hansama ults himself. And Kabi does not get enough crits to kill Hansama. And then he dies.
All right, I think Amazing is right. Splyce are the unlucky Misfits.
For now. 80% crit chance on the side of the Tristana. Lost the 1v1 right there, or 1v2 I guess we can say.
Senkuk's making a hero's entrance. Mickey X is already there to save Maxlor. He's never really in any danger. He's got those 2 guys at his back. Misfits go right back to controlling the Splyce jungle. But man, that play, that'll be on highlight reels for a while.
We're gonna get more of those. We might get another fight here, Pyra.
Oh, the Forge God knocking it back onto Senkuk, swallowed up once again by Mickey X. And Alfari, not quite Meganar yet. But Splyce don't fancy another go-round.
Alfari also went for the Hurricane build to have more push in the side lane, but it does make him a lot weaker in the actual team fight against this Splyce lineup. He also wanted to just try and stack his Rage Bar as fast as possible, and he knows in a team fight, if he can get an ulti like the one we saw earlier, it buys so much time for Hansama to kill whoever's right in front of him. But we get to see how Splyce, despite being down 7,000 gold, they don't care. They're the ones looking to force the fights. They are so confident that Niski and Kabi will stay alive and win the team fights for this team.
As long as they don't bait all their tanks.
Yes. Don't overchase, for sure.
That's okay.
Because Senkux right now will deal some serious damage, but it's not what we see from some of the other mid lane mages. They, of course, will go for the same kind of build as we see on the Galio Zerse. Just drop low, but he's fine.
He's got the Warmogs. It's merely a flesh wound to Fishio.
We might have to see more of their push 3 lanes from Misfits, then Tamkin's ulti to the side lane and secure a turret. You can do that very effectively until you start getting to the inhib turrets, and then the distance between the lanes, it's so short that when you're making this little Tamkin's play, most of the time the enemy team can just move from mid to top or bot lane and still defend in time, but you can do it for the outer turrets at least. Next big one though, Elder Drake.
At the same time, Baron's gonna spawn too. Misfits have all the control. They should be able to secure the Elder Drake. It's huge for them, but maybe Splyce opt to trade for it. I'm not sure.
Well, right now they can't trade for anything other than, I guess, looking at where the objective will spawn. I wonder if this ward is just placed around the edge, so a control ward inside the pit will not see it. Definitely one of the goals when you place these wards and you know you're gonna get pushed out is you place them just around the small corners of this Baron entrance. So when you put a control ward in the Baron itself, it doesn't actually see the ward. In this case though, what you do is you activate your sweeper and then you check and then you kill the ward. It's pretty simple.
Over and over again. Misfits shoring up their vision game for sure. Getting closer and closer to that 2 objectives spawn and the 40-minute mark. As you called, it will be a very late game, it looks like. Get to that full item point, and Alfari, he might have been a little weaker earlier on, but he picks up the Gargoyle Stone Plate, so he's going to have some serious tankiness for Splyce's members to contend with.
Yeah, he knows, again, for him, it's also about just staying alive as long as possible.
Yep.
Don't let these 2 AD carries kill you fast enough so they can start taking down the rest of your team.
Well, that's for Odo, too.
Yeah, I mean,
the upgraded Locket.
Both these tanks, just, it's miserable sometimes to play teamfight as a tank, because some of the fights, your job is to walk in, distract the enemy, take a bunch of damage in your face, and then risk dying.
Ooh! Different AD carry sped up this time. Just keep providing the threat. Okay, I got a little ahead of myself. I thought he was going all in with that package.
He's definitely
sniffing around.
Feeling confident right now.
Okay.
Oh, that's a stun on Hansama.
Here we go. Forge God's calling. Who's going to hit the answer? It's going to be Alfari. Still in Mini Gnar, and Cersei's hopping away. In comes Max. So it's a lot of chunk damage here. Senkuk's trying to get the taunt off. Otawami leading the charge. It looks like Splyce the ones that have more sustain right now. They're on the offensive.
The double AD carry is winning at the moment here. The front line of Misfits dropping low. They're forced to back away.
Splyce can get an objective if they want off of this one.
Let's see where they go. They are moving towards the Baron for now. Pings from Misfits near the Elder Drake. Maxwell is on the way. Want to see if he can trade objectives, or is he going to change his mind?
Teleport in the mid. Senkook's already coming in. Now the Baron's already down. It is easily going to fall. Let's see if they can get there to contest the Elder in time.
Yeah, too late from Misfits here. If they want to go for a trade, they should have rushed the Elder Drake, but they moved towards mid instead. Now, Splyce is showing up. We might get the same kind of team fight. Mickey's already down to 50% HP.
Yeah, so is the Dragon right now. Let's see if they can do it. And see, they're going to try and bail out, bait this one out, not give Misfits, not give Splyce a chance to secure this up. It's going low. We could be in for a smite fight right now. Otowane getting the stun off, getting the knock up off, and it's incredibly low at 2,500 health. Cersei's inside the pit, but the Dragon's going to reset. It's confused inside of this one, and now Niski, the rest of the team is isolated from Cersei. They decide to back out for just a second, but the Dragon's going to fall. It's going to get secured by Misfits. That was a tense one.
Hansama stepped forward right there. Got Niski very low and forced Splyce back, so they could actually secure the Elder Drake. Misfits get it with double Infernal and Mountain Drake, so it's a big one, it's a fatty one for Misfits right now, and they can still look to try and win a fight with it, but man, these fights, you just watch the AD carries move against each other. If you suddenly get too close and Hansama get 2 or 3 hits onto you as a squishy Corki or Tristana, you're forced out of the fight instantly. Misfits suddenly controlling it. If it's the other way around and it's Niski and Corby just shooting away 2 members versus the front line of Misfits, they're winning the fight. They can kill them faster than Hansama can do, and suddenly it's Misfits backing away.
And now it's Elder versus Baron buff. Stakes keep getting raised, Officio. Oh man, I think, talking about the post-game lobby here after this game finishes, there's going to be a lot to say about this game for sure.
It's going to be a very, very close one. Still, when it comes to late game fights,
Yeah.
the Zillion double AD carry combo is fantastic to watch and so strong. I think if Splyce makes sure that Niski and Corby can stay alive in these fights and the tanks do not overextend, then Hansama might struggle to carry the Misfits team.
And of course, in a game with Ornn, you're not just talking 6 items, you're also talking upgrades. We've already got 1 Molten Edge completed for Kabi. Another one possibly for Niski could come out later. There's always a little extra options there.
We also got the Mikhails we talked about earlier from Kasing that we wanted to see. Just in case there's a flash taunt or a stun from Maxlor. That comes in instantly from Kasing's side.
Very true.
Sama though, been playing very well once again. Great positioning in these fights here. Stepping forward, trying to see if he can hit some of the squishies. Decent damage. Gotta remember, double Infernal with the Elder Drake.
And they've got the inner. It's going to be the 5th tower of the game for Misfits. There's still 1 standing up on top lane for Splyce. Now Splyce looking to push in the Misfits members. Maxlor was around the side here. I mean, it's so close. Neither team really wants to take the straight up 5v5. Maxlor spotted. Niski on the chase. That's a lot of damage.
Remember, we said this Jax is squishy. We saw it right there. The Trinity 4 Sterix build is great if it gets an actual 1v1 duel against something, if it gets multiple auto attacks off in a fight, and then the Sheen procs with that empowered damage from the extra base damage coming from Sterix. That's so rare you do that in a team fight in the late game as a Jax. Typically your job is to jump in, stun someone, get a few hits off, and then try and jump out again or run out and try and re-engage the fight later, because you don't have enough time to just sit and auto-attack things in team fights.
Well, you mentioned some of the members of Misfits on these champions could struggle a little in the late game. Jax is one of them, but of course, Senkook's Alphari on the Gnar, on the Galio, who are a little squishier than they might be if they were going for the full tank build. Now Splyce, it's a 5-man going down by.
Let's see. The 5-man red buff steal at 44 minutes. A classic.
Ooh,
whoa.
Hello, Alphari. Did not want to face check that brush. The Forge God's calling once again. I don't think Misfits want to pick up the phone. Maxlor looking for an in around the side. Still, good positioning from Splyce. Niski on the front line. Forces out the counter-strike.
And Kasing just sitting behind, always speeding up the AD carries. Allow them to rush forward and deal a bit of extra damage. Apply the Ardent Sensor with the Ares Shield coming in. From that speed up, and Kasing, Corby and Niski, the 3 best friends on Splyce, trying to take down what many, or some consider, the best team in Europe. Debatable with Vitality up there as well, but one of the absolute best in Europe.
True. Well, Misfits did beat Vitality.
They did. Fair point.
But it's not always this for that kind of situation, of course, all said and done will happen way later on. But I'm really, really excited to see who comes out on top in this one. It's been such a close game, such a tight one. And Splyce, it seems like they shored up a lot of weaknesses, but Misfits, they've been playing incredibly well too.
And Maxwell is trying to be a split pusher now on this Jax here. See if he can actually get any sort of fight in the side lane, or if he gets a bit of time at a turret, he can also take that down very quickly. But it's tough because he's obviously not running teleport, so if he ever gets caught on the wrong side of the map, he can't help his team. And we know that Splyce can chase enemies down with the zillion speed up.
Niski does not want to pick up the package.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's like my experience with German delivery. Let's see what he's going to end up doing.
Oh, they're fighting here.
All the Forge God forcing the flash. Okay, Hans Sama though on the front line. He's the one. Turnabout's fair play here for this doggy. See if he's got any more. Maxlor. It's all buying time.
Yeah, he finally gets to this turret here. Good damage coming in from Hansama onto Copy, forcing him back. And as we can see, Misfits are not winning the game currently based on just 5-on-5 team fighting. They're winning it by split pushing, by utilizing Tam Kench ultis, by utilizing a Jax jungle in the side lane. They're pulling Splyce apart.
It's all about those objectives. Misfits got their eyes on the prize. Alfari goes Meganar. Hansama pops out of Mickey X's belly. That is just about it. They've got a couple of towers for their troubles. Maxlor, nice, easy take of the red buff.
Back to top lane, keep split pushing.
And another minute till Baron buff's active, or Baron is up, I should say.
This is definitely then the value of going for damage on the Jax jungle. Once again, we might get some very cool fights around the objectives when they're live, but for now it's Misfits winning the last few minutes. Finally opened the base of Splyce. There is an open inhib in the bot lane. They know, however, if they actually go for any sort of push towards it, there will be a team fight starting.
Yes, there certainly will be, but a while ago you predicted this is one of those 60-minute games. We have a big explosive fight, and the game is over. We still got 13 to Fischio.
And we still have some fights to watch and analyze. At the moment, we're still looking at what Misfits wants to do with the Elder Drakes still not alive and Baron spawning in 10 seconds time. We know Splyce control mid with the double-A carry, and we know Maxwell wants to split push side lanes. Good thing that he's on top side, because of course without the TP he can't join for a Baron fight if he's on the other side of the map. Splyce can start it though and just jump out and engage. Oh, the double control. They try to hide it. You saw that? He tried to remove the second one instantly, be like, no one saw this, but the camera sees everything.
Yeah, our observers don't miss a trick, that's for sure. Splyce weighing their options here, but meanwhile there's still a lot of push going on. Alfari, he's still on the bottom. He just goes Meganar. They want to force a team fight. Maybe they can wait out his Narbar.
I mean, they can stop the Baron and they force Maxwell to leave this top lane and go for a fight. And the TP coming in now. But Amna's TP should
It's already gone.
Be here very soon. That was very quick.
Yeah, that's a Mountain Drag. That's 48 minutes on the clock. The Misfits, they're trying to pincer them here, but the teleport's going to come in for Ottawamne. If he completes that one, they might be in for a fight. He gets taunted up for just a second. He's already down to half his health bar. Let's see if they can turn this one around. The Buster Shot, Maxlor still doing the damage on the Kasing, but the Resurrect's coming in. And this is just a fight on multiple fronts here. Mickey is already down, and Hansama, Senkuk's chasing in, looking for Niski right now. Can Misfits do this? Getting the shutdown. They found two members, but they paid for it with two of their own.
That was a 2-for-2. Fights everywhere. Maxlor on one side ended up dying against Kobe and Kasing. But then we got to see on the screen how the rest of Misfits could actually kill Ottawamne very quickly, and then Niski right after. 3v3, Baron over to Splyce.
It's going to be very important for them to try and keep this one alive. Hansama incredibly low right now. There's no way for them to resurrect him. Kobe's going to get the kill. This is huge right now for Splyce. Looking for more damage. Meganar, Alfari, Senkuk's trying to keep him at bay. Xerxes comes in. That's a shutdown. Kobe's staying alive. So is Xerxes. A hop away. Keeps Alfari at bay. Let's see if they can do it to finish the job on him. But that boomerang is still threatening. And they've got to back off. Alfari, the lone survivor of this carnage.
Another very close fight here, but Kobe finally got the kill on Hansama. Let's see it again. We have Misfits coming from multiple angles. Maxwell behind the Baron. North, we get Alfari. South, we get the rest of Misfits. And we do see the instant TP coming in and then a punish onto Ottawamne. But meanwhile, we have Maxwell and Alfari fighting Kobe and Kasing. Kasing used ulti on himself. Maxwell's now in a 1v1 duel. Ends up losing it against the full HP Tristana. So he goes down. But obviously on the other side, Misfits gets that kill onto Niski and Ottawamne. Meanwhile, Splyce are pushing right now. 15 seconds on Hansama, 20 seconds on Senkuk.
Those are still some serious death timers. They're going to start with an inhibitor and not look to push their luck too much. Kobe's on the front line. He's hopping away. So, all said and done, it is Splyce that break the inhibitor line.
It is not over yet.
Not by a long shot to Fischio.
We're gonna get some more crazy fights here.
Oh boy.
Kabi versus Hansama, always exciting to follow. Two of the best late game AD carries in Europe, and added Niski on the side for Kabi and gives him a small advantage, I guess, in the AD carry department when they're technically 2 versus 1.
I suppose that's true. But man, I mean, what a duel.
45 seconds Pyra for Elder Drake. Maxwell's getting some more damage now. Tiamat wants to be able to push faster in that side lane. He knows his job is just to be a split pusher now on this Jax. He's on the bottom side sitting.
Yeah, but so is all of Splyce.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of Splyce members.
They're not going for him. Because the rest of Misfits have arrived. This is going to be an Elder fight.
Senkux is top lane at the moment. Always have to remember in late game team fights, the channel time on TP is important. Oh,
got the Jax.
Onto him.
But here comes the cavalry. Mickey X, this time he's all alone though. So Kabi, the rest of Splyce, they're jumping right on in. There's that gray health, but it's going to be melted through pretty quickly. Teleport's coming all the way up. Mickey is going to fall. Niski's going to get the final shot on the flash auto. And instead of the Elder, Splyce were looking at the tier 2 down bottom, but this might be their chance. They've got a man advantage for another minute.
So, sitting with the Baron buff still, should be able to secure Elder Drake. Max Lore, if he goes for a steal, he risks dying for it, and that could be crucial.
Ari's here.
They're still around.
He's got half an R-bar.
It's
what are they going to do?
45, Pyra.
Yeah, I mean, if they can steal this one out, it would be legendary right now. But Splyce are 5 members strong on this Dragon. Trying to secure it. In goes Maxor a little bit too late. He gets rooted, pulled back in. The Dragon is not smiteable just yet. And they're going to pull him back in a way. Senkuk's trying to get it in around the side, but it's Xerxes who's getting melted down. Maxor, no, he's still not quite fallen yet. Senkuk's finally will. And the Forge God comes out once again, looking for Hansama. Melting through him, and that just might be it. Splyce, it's a double kill over to Niski. And Alfari is running for his life, trying to kite back. And Kabi picks up Maxlor.
They're gonna go for the finish now, Pyra. They're TPing into the base straight away. They got all the AD carries alive and super minions in the mid lane.
Damn the Elder Drake, they just want to finish, and it's only Alfari to try and hold on to this game. But he is seeing his base melt before his eyes. The tanks come crashing in. Mickey X is right back up. But this is going to be all she wrote, just shy of an hour. Splyce are going to finish the game against Misfits.
Great late game team fights from Splyce. We kept talking about the scaling, the Zillion with the double AD carries. Misfits, 4v5. Felt like they had to try and stop the Elder Drake, but that ended up just being a very, very bad decision from the team. They got punished, they died, and they lost.
At that point, it's all about those little mistakes, and Splyce, they could not be happier. They come away with a win in a hard-fought battle. They had another one yesterday, but this time, they get the W. Big smiles all around.
This team, they value these late game comps so much. Misfits got some good early advantages. We saw nice movements between lanes to secure turrets. But when it came to then starting to play around Baron to get that big push towards the win, it got slowed down a lot, it got delayed a lot, and then suddenly we got too far into the game. 3 items on Kabi, Zillion with the Ardent Sensor, and max rank in his E, and then suddenly an AD carry comes flying in your face whenever you try to do anything in mid. And what happens is Splyce takes over the mid lane. And when you control mid, you end up controlling the Baron as well, and Misfits never found a way back. They didn't feel like they could win these big late game team fights, so they tried to split push. Max Low was in that side lane multiple times.
That's a harder game to play for sure.
And
At the end of the day,
win you the game. Tough game for Misfits. Fantastic late game team fighting from Splyce. Super fun game to watch as well.
Oh yeah, it was so tense for a good 20+ minutes of that one, and man, what a ridiculous amount of damage they were dishing. Kabe
There's no happiness.
was just annihilating people.
Odamne also.
Oda had a pretty good game. We gotta give him some credit.
He's smiling, he knows, he picked the Ornn, his job was to be a front line.
And Kasing's job was to put a speed boost on somebody and watch him go.
Second time with the Zillion, second time he wins.
Dude, who needs a meta?
Confirmed
Kasing's got it.
overpowered.
Absolutely.
It is actually
Total win rate.
It's super good in the
Hey,
late
whoa,
game.
we didn't get a pentakill this time, though. I'm a little disappointed.
Yeah, that's true. But those 2 AD carries, I guess they got double kill and
Yeah,
triple
they had to
kill.
fight. It still counts?
Kinda Penta.
All right, so they can share it.
For Splyce at least it counts for now.
Now the win certainly counts. These guys are feeling great
And once again in Europe, everyone seems to beat everyone.
on a given day.
Only Vitality sitting at number 1 now with 5-1. Misfits could have tied it, but they end with 4-2 here at the end of week 3.
Splyce improving to 3-3. But we've got a little unfinished business to Fischio. We've got Odoamne, Kabe, Kasing, all contesting for player of the game. We want to hear from you guys at home, so head over to @LLEsports on Twitter and vote in the poll. You'll get your results in the ULCS post-game lobby in just a few minutes. But I want to ask the Esper next to me. Who do you think? Who do you think deserves that one?
Oh, tough. Team effort, 100%. Like the performance from Kabe on this Tristana here. Had some good plays towards the end. Oh, I had to pick one instantly. I'd probably go for him in this game.
Fair enough. Yeah, especially up against his counterpart, Hans Sama, who was, I mean, earlier in the game had pulled off the 1v2. That's an insane highlight to watch, too, despite the fact that he didn't win the game.
And he had to actually also, on the side of Hans Sama, some fights where he was able to kind of dodge around the main engages, and then when an AD carry stepped forward, he did get a few hits onto them, and it forced Splyce back. So it was a tough game for him to play, but he actually had some really good team fights as well on Hans Sama's side. It's just the comp from Misfits, it was so difficult in the late game to kill 2 AD carries. You didn't have that much hard engage. I got a camera right in front of me right now, Pyre.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey. Well, you were saying about how difficult it is to kill 2 AD carries that had QSSs, and I mean, Maxlor's life was really difficult that last half of the game.
Yeah, the DPS built on Jax in late game team fights versus a lot of damage doesn't really work.
Yeah.
So that's why he became a split pusher, which did give them a few turrets, but they needed that one last team fight towards the end to actually get in and finish the game, and they didn't get it.
I also think it's a big testament to how well Splyce were able to just not only like group and just death ball, but to be able to like kind of like move themselves back and forth all over the map and not give really any opportunity, despite the fact that they were losing towers in the top and the mid and the bottom. I mean, it's not easy to do that against a very oppressive team like Misfits.
It's not, no, 100%. I mean, you still have to execute the late game fights, and we saw a few times, even though you had the Zillion ulti to help you, if you got too far forward as an AD carry, you could still die.
Or your tanks would die for you.
Or your tanks would die for you. We had that one big fight.
Maybe Xerxes and Odoamne are going to like pull Kabe into his side. Guys, I know you want to kill people, but relax a little bit. It's okay. You'll get your pentakills when they come.
I love watching Tristana, though, when she gets the speed up from Zillion. The dragon kind of just takes off, you know, and she just flies through the mid lane
speed
to try and kill someone.
It was pretty amazing. All right, for more on Splyce's win, we're going to send it over to Medic, who's sitting down with their bot lane.
Thank you very much, Pyro. I am joined by the victorious bot lane at Kasing Kabe. Congratulations on your win over Misfits. How does it feel to get to the end of week 3 and be 3-3?
I mean, I don't know, man, because like it's very 50-50. I felt even in yesterday's game against G2, we had like a fairly good shot about it, to win the game. But I just felt we kind of just maybe misplayed the mid game and kind of like let them snowball on us, and you know, the game just gone like that.
Okay, because a lot of guys expected like Splyce to be one of the big teams coming out hitting quite hard, a lot of big names on the team as well. Kabe, do you feel that you've now found a degree of synergy amongst this team?
I feel like it's a lot better now compared to if you would ask me 2 weeks ago, it would be completely different, because it's like every new team, you're 5 new guys and you need to learn how to play together, and that takes a while. Like it can take a couple of weeks, a month, and I feel like we're definitely on the right track.
So what was it specifically you guys were struggling with? Some teams say it's shot calling, some teams say it's decision making. What was holding Splyce back?
I mean, it's a bit of both, because shot calling, you need to get used to a new dynamic, because maybe in the players' previous teams, they're the ones who is calling everything, and then people are like talking over each other and making a lot of split calls. And then it's just like, when you come from different backgrounds, different teams, you see the game in maybe your own way, and then you need to kind of compromise and come up with like the best solution and like adapt to each other.
So it feels like a period of adjustment that you've like, do you think you're at the end of it now? Do you think there's still adjustment that you need to do as a team?
You can go.
We'll get you the next one.
I mean, I said I think we're on the right track, but there's still a long way to go.
Okay, so Kasing, just coming back to you, because we have to ask you a question at some point.
No, have to.
You've come back to the EU LCS after a bit of a break. You were with Team RB last split. How does it feel to be back on the stage here?
Honestly, like, I've missed the stage a lot. I love the audience, the fans, you know, the cheering of like, when a game's like this, you know, 50 minutes in, all it takes is one team fight to win, and, you know, you just win the game. So, yeah, it's just been great, man.
And you and Kabe seem to be working really well as well. Like, it seems to be that the bot lane is where Splyce play through a lot of the time. Late game, you've got the Zillion pick, which no one else is bringing out. How do you think that you guys are working as a duo? You both have to answer this.
Yeah, you
Okay. Well, I think we, like from the beginning, I felt it was going to be a great match because we complement each other with like my weaknesses, Kasing covers up for, And I want to say opposite as well, but it's not really the same case. So I think we just we have like.
Don't say that. I'm really bad.
Yeah,
It's just too good for me.
I have better mechanics than him, but my weaknesses he covers up for.
It's not really that hard, is it?
Nah.
So I've just heard in my ear, Kobe, I want to congratulate you. You were player of the game for that last game, so congratulations on that. Coming back to it, like earlier on, we talked a little bit about why Splyce are able to win after these long, drawn-out matches. Kobe, do you have maybe one word that would define why Splyce are able to win these matches?
Cussing.
Makes sense to me. We're going to hand it back across towards Dracos for PGL. Guys, take it away.
Welcome to the EU LCS post-game lobby for a look at today's action here in the Spring Split. Joining me today are Maurice Amazing Stuckenschneider. Is it Amazing or Amazing X? Are you?
No, I'm good with the Amazing.
Okay,
I think
just I have to. I'm sure Shock has asked at some point. It's the first time I had to formally introduce you, and of course, the more important.
I dropped the X after some unlucky happenings.
More important member right now, Splyce's top laner Odo Wamne. Odo, welcome. How's it feel? Long nail-biting game. You don't look like a bundle of joy at the moment. Describe to me how you're feeling.
I mean, I'm not really feeling anything special just because, I don't know. It's just like the meta is so lame that, I don't know, playing top lane in this meta is just really, really tiring.
Okay, well, we'll get a chance to talk about top lane a little bit later. For now, as we just saw, Splyce managed to come back in the late game to win against Misfits. Bouncing back after yesterday's loss, I think it's safe to say. So what really was the key here to kind of finding the win in the end, even if the top lane wasn't the most exciting part?
I mean, I think just our draft was way better today. We had a better dog champ on the top lane with Owen instead of Maokai. But yeah, I don't know, it's just so awkward because for the meta for top right now, and I think that's the reason we did so much better today, is you just got like a better tank that actually doesn't have to front line and just die every team fight, like it happened yesterday. So with Owen, you just sit in the back and you just throw CC, and I think they just got outscaled really hard because they went for Galio and they didn't really force a lot in the early game that much, and we just had Corki Tristana with Zillion, so we just kind of had two hyper carries and they only had one damage thread in Kog, and all we had to do is just kind of run away from Kog and just let Tristana and Corki just melt the tanks.
So would you credit this, you said mostly to like the draft win, the better scaling is what carried you through in the end. Is this kind of improvement for the team showing up as well? Is the drafting getting better? Is the team play improving as well for you guys?
I mean, even though we lost yesterday and our performances haven't been that great, you know, the past weeks, I feel like even when we lose, the games are more in our hands from week to week. I think we're solving some of our, like, you know, macro issues and all of that stuff. And I think, yeah, even in losses, we look better a bit. But yeah, I think yesterday was just a fuck up in draft, and it was just kind of hard to win when we put priority on like the wrong things.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, Maurice, you were kind of the biggest pundit, mostly against Misfits, I guess, in the previous segment. But
No.
in favor of Splyce, potentially. Why don't you give me the rundown here? What went wrong for Misfits? What was most impressive to you about this game?
I'm definitely not against Misfits, but I had to bet against Video, so I had to win. That's a whole nother story. However, I think that Misfits overall, they just seem to be a team that like waits for opponents to make mistakes in the late game, and I think that doesn't happen when you get outscaled at some point, because for Splyce, obviously the double damage threat coming in and just allowing them to basically just freely scale and then at some point dominate, especially with the Zillion pick coming in that has now won 2 games apparently. Yeah, just the power pick coming in, yeah. So it wasn't surprising to me to see that, and I think that's one of the issues that I still see with Misfits, that they're so almost like hell-bent on making Mr. Hansama their hyper carry in most games, that they neglect other roads and don't really put as much resources in terms of pick ban into them.
All right, well, that's something I'm going to want to track as we move forward to see if that's an issue kind of that remains consistent. But now I want to take a look at the next matchup. Schalke, after struggling to find their form in the first weeks, they came up with an impressive win against Giants, led by their jungler, Pride on Sejuani. Sejuani,
Finally, man.
I know, you've been waiting for it. Amazing. I want to get to Odo too, but why don't we just, you can say it. I know you've been waiting to say it all day. Pride Stalker on Tank Champions.
I'm happy because, like, for me, it's such a bad habit for any jungler or for any player in general to be pigeonholing himself into a certain kind of role where they only play carry champions, where they only play tank champions. To be a full and complete player, you have to be able to play both. And Pride finally does play a dog champion in the jungle in Sejuani, where he's actually just adapting to the meta and playing what he's supposed to be playing.
And there's a lot of talk about dog champions, but this game had a Camille and a Gnar. Odo, you kind of talked about, in your case, drafting, it felt like taking Ornn instead of Maokai was the big defining factor. How do you feel like Gnar and Camille kind of fit into the meta right now?
I mean, I think Camille is a pretty strong power pick, but it's just so easy because most of the teams, I think almost all the teams just pick their top laner in the second pick phase. So like in 4 or 5. And all you have to do on either side is just ban Camille. And then you just pinch the top pool so much that it's back to tank versus tank. So yeah, like if you're looking to just get tank stopped, then all you have to do is just ban Camille and then you take Ornn into Gnar. Or there's also GP as the kind of the odd one out. He's okay into tanks, but I feel like he just loses too much lane priority to kind of make it worth as much. His scaling is okay, but I just feel like it's so easy to just pinch the top pull down by just banning Gangplank Camille in second ban phase, and then you're back to tank duty.
Yeah, on the other side, though, Schalke is the team that we have seen kind of steadily improving, it feels like, starting to find their form. So focusing back in on this matchup, Odo, when you look at this team, we initially predicted them kind of from the EU LCS broadcast side as a team pretty much guaranteed to make playoffs. Do you think that's fair to say from what you saw in their game today?
I mean, yeah, even before seeing the game, they just have so much talent on the roster that it's kind of, it would be odd not seeing them in the playoffs, because I just think their players are kind of really good and they're meshing well together. But today, yeah, they showed that they did pretty well. I think Pride Stalker showed big today. He just randomly ran to Nash and just walked up to it, pressed D or F or whatever his might is on, and then won the game. So, I mean, yeah, I think they're just improving every week. But I think that's kind of the story with every EULCS team, because the roster shuffle was so big that kind of all the teams except Fnatic are new teams. So it's everyone will have his own struggles at one point. For example, you see Rocket started off by playing fairly well, and now they're kind of struggling. I think they just had an 0-2 week. But yeah, I think at one point every team is just going to start struggling.
Interesting to see. Amazing. What is your impression of kind of the development here for Schalke? And then maybe also on the other side, Giants, and kind of the problems that they ran into in this game?
I mean, for me, it's quite obvious still that Giants has these issues in the mid game that we already talked about, like where Joker at some point is going to invade and do a mistake, or they don't have the cleanest amount of like mid game just shot calling where they force an objective and actually play for it properly, and rather struggle in that sense. And that's when Schalke basically strikes. And I think they've always been, even in the losses that they had, Schalke has been a strong shot calling team. They've always had a good macro, but they sometimes get lost in those technicalities where they focus so much on trying to make the right call that they forget, hey, we actually have to play the game and press buttons too. And I think that's where Schalke still has to develop themselves. And obviously the pick ban that we talked about in terms of like dropping the Kazakhs and actually playing the tank jungle and playing the meta is something they still have to adapt to too. And I want Upset to actually be 100% comfortable. Obviously he's not 100% healthy as we've heard, or he's recovering now. And I think when that happens, I think the team is going to be way stronger than we've seen and going to replicate what they've shown today.
Yeah, transitioning that scrim performance to the stage seems to be a big story across teams. I'm curious, Odo, from your experience on Splyce, do you feel like some of your team members are still struggling to kind of bring the same level that they do in scrims to the EULCS stage?
No, not really. I feel like we're lucky on that aspect, just because, I mean, I feel like maybe we're playing a bit worse, but it's not really like something drastic like we saw or like heard from like, you know, other teams in the past, with Rocket being like scrim gods like 2 years ago and they were just struggling on stage every game. I feel like with most teams, even in this year, I won't really name them, but I feel like it's kind of a trend. Everyone plays a bit more loose, you know, in scrims, and they play a bit better. But I feel like there's always going to be a difference when you play on stage. Even it just depends how big it is. And I feel like with Splyce, it's kind of not as big, but you know, it's still kind of there.
Do you think that coaches can actually actively influence that and actually help you out in case you have mental struggles, or have you not experienced that so far?
I mean, we had this last year with H2K, and we kind of realized at one point that we were playing a lot more aggressive and we were like a lot more careless about jungle pathing and all of this stuff. While more different on stage than in scrims. So at one point you're like, okay, listen, we need to kind of actively, think about being a bit more conservative in scrims and kind of tone down on that aggression so it kind of matches the level we put on in LCS, because there's a lot of teams where they're like, oh, well, we're just gonna focus in LCS to play like we do in scrims, and that's kind of bullshit. So I feel like you just need to kind of try to match what you do in LCS in scrims than the other way around.
It's interesting. I wonder how it's worked for other teams, because the next matchup I want to talk about is, of course, Vitality going head-to-head with Unicorns Love. And Vitality have been very vocal, Jizuke, their mid laner particularly, about saying he performs even better on stage, that he feels even more confident, and I feel like that's a really rare thing to find. Am I wrong in saying I feel like this is the first rookie that has ever said that with confidence, that he hasn't had any trouble transitioning to the stage?
Yeah, it's pretty rare. Like, we've seen, obviously, on the other hand, like, we've seen Upset like basically talk big before the games, and then they kind of not doing so well on stage. And we've seen, like, obviously Rocket 2 years ago failing. And I think Jizuke is similar to Peke in his approach. I think the mindset, I don't know if it's like this Mediterranean blood or whatever it is, but just like getting heated on stage and actually showing emotions can really do bode well for you, because Jizuke does not care if he fails or not. And I think that alone in itself is such a huge development compared to a lot of other rookies that are still stuck in, I have to prove to everyone wrong, I have to do things right, like that are basically struggling just with playing well. And I think I'm happy that Jizuke is so vocal about it, actually recognizes that his talent is unique.
Yeah, and from your perspective, Odo, when we look across this game, it feels to me like Vitality have been showing more and more that they are a team that can kind of come back, that they are more than just a team that's, snowballing early games off their mid laner. How do you feel about Vitality right now? What do you think that they showed in this performance?
I just feel like they're all just really, really confident, and they don't really, they're not worried, or they don't care that a play might be wrong, They just have full confidence. I feel like they're all playing really loose, and I think that's just helping them a lot, because everyone's kind of just bringing their A game, and they don't care if it's gonna like backfire or not, because like Vitality are like some pretty weak early games sometimes, or like they had really strong early games and then they messed up in the mid game and actually lost the game to that Nasher steal against Misfits, I think it was. So it just kind of goes to show that that's their playstyle. They're not really scared of anything. I feel like that's their biggest strength right now, the confidence in like all of their players.
Yeah, but you talked about that kind of being a loose play, and sometimes they may be taking risks that they're not worried about. After 3 weeks, does this feel like Vitality is the top team, that their spot at the top of the standings is going to stay that way, that they're going to hold this spot? Or is this still a team where we have more questions before we can call them, a definitive top European team?
They really remind me of last year's Fnatic. I think the Summer Split Fnatic basically showed similar tendencies, in where they were let loose and they could just do plays all over the map. Obviously, they seem to be cohesive, but in the playoffs it seemed to falter, because then teams figured them out and basically got onto a higher level in terms of macro and understood what they were doing. So I'm wondering if that may happen to Vitality, where they're just ahead of the curve and are just more aggressive because they understand the meta a bit better than everyone else. So I think they're the best team in Europe right now, but I think that may change.
What is your impression, Odo?
I kind of think the same. I just feel like at one point, maybe, say they go on like a loose streak or something, when that confidence starts to like shatter, it might like start going all downhill for them. But it did never get in that place where, they start losing the games. I think they're still fine. I just feel like their map movements are okay, just because they're just so decisive with them. I don't think they really anything spectacular. I think like their macro is good, don't get me wrong, but I feel like other teams' macro is just as good. I feel like they just pull the trigger really hard, and their laning phase is just the biggest strength for them, because that guy in the middle is just styling on everyone 24/7. So I mean, they're just always playing from like a winning position. So I think that's what's really good for them. But so far in the early game, they never got into a losing position. So like when that happens, we need to see how they react to that.
I do feel like, though, they gained a little bit more credit after the Schalke game yesterday, because they were losing out on lane pressure. They were getting invaded. Pride, I mean, as much as we did not like the Kha'Zix, was used pretty effectively early game to shut down. Cho'Gath in the top lane as well. Is that still not enough, though, to kind of prove that they can come back from an early game deficit? Do they need to show more?
I think they need to show more, but it's more about just like actually playing a scaling comp. I think so far they have shown like a lot of promise in terms of how they can execute with comps that they really like. And I think maybe in terms of maybe being thrown off guard, where they can play their own style at 100%, where a team maybe figures them out a bit and just says, hey, we can match your aggression. And in those cases, I really want to see how that actually works out, especially in the early game.
Yeah, well, for now, they look damn good, and that's earned them a spot at the top of the ladder, currently sitting alone in first place. And, you know, kind of just impressive to see as we've moved through this, but you can see as well, Fnatic, G2, Splyce, Schalke starting to catch up. Rocket coming down a little bit after the as well. But really, there's just this huge middle of the pack in the standings right now, and it's hard for me to actually say who's going to start to come up, who's going to start to prove as a top team, because some teams are now starting to lose games, some teams are now starting to come together and win games. How do you see this developing over the weeks to come?
I think G2, Fnatic, and Schalke are probably going to catch up to Giants. I don't think the Giants are that great of a team. We saw a lot of struggles today, and I honestly think that Splyce is gonna have a bit of an uprise too. I think the playoff teams, for me at least, what I think is gonna happen is gonna be Vitality, Misfits, Schalke, Fnatic, G2, and Splyce, as most analysts have predicted before the season started. And I think we're already seeing the trend where Rocket is starting to fail and Giants looks a bit shaky.
Is that your impression as well, or are you feeling? I mean, let's just start with Splyce in playoffs. Does that feel like where you see your goals right now?
I mean, in a way, I feel like if we would miss playoffs, it would be kind of be like a disaster for me. So I'm definitely aiming for that. But it's just kind of hard because it's like week 3 and all the teams are still kind of like trying to get better, and everyone's just kind of showing their tendencies or like their patterns on like how they want to play or how they want to get better. So I mean, I think it's still early to kind of pinpoint who's going to be a top 6, just because the standings are just like there's a huge middle of the pack, and I feel like even the top teams right now can just start going on a losing spree just because it's like best of 1. So if you just have like a bad week or something, then you already start going down on the standings. I think in like a week or 2, it would be fair to kind of start making predictions on who's gonna make playoffs. But I think now it's still kind of free for all in a way.
It's still week 3, of course. A lot is still uncertain as we start to come to a close here, but. The other thing I want to talk about, you've been saying it all day. You've been very blunt, I think, in the way you address it. Top lane meta. I feel like we've seen some interesting picks, but Odo, I mean, you seem super jaded, and you're delivering it well enough that I feel like it's justified. You've played the Ornn 3 times now, the Maokai once. You're talking about it being this boring dogfight in the top lane. But I mean, Ornn is nerfed. Is he still this good as we start to talk about top lane meta? Is he still just, you feel like, with the other couple champs banned away, is he just the absolute go-to that you have to look out for?
I mean, in terms of tanks, yeah, just because like even though the nerfs happened, his laning phase is still very good. Like the nerfs only happened with his CC immunity on W and his cooldown on R, so his laning phase didn't actually get impacted that much. It's just Ornn as a champion, he's kind of a tank that doesn't need to be like in the front line to apply his CC or like tank people or stun or anything, you know? He can just sit in the back line and just throw his ult, while any other tank in the game, he has to actually be in the front line and soak damage. Like, for example, look at Cho'Gath, look at Maokai. Those champions, they just go in the front line and they cannot hit a single spell just because the meta is like so focused on bot lane, and bot lane like carries are so strong that tanks just actually get blown up if you have this mismatch in the way that Ornn is actually safe and he just applies his CC from a distance, and then you have Maokai, Cho'Gath that actually have to like tank 5 people, then that's kind of where the tanks start kind of falling apart, and that's why Ornn is just the most broken one in terms of tanks.
But I feel like we have seen a lot of effective use of Cho'Gath, where Cho'Gath, offers a lot of early lane pressure, is still a big threat. I see your point about him being super safe and the CC being able to apply from such a distance, but it still feels like some of these tanks have value. I mean, Cho'Gath has that silence, the insane burst as well. Or is it just that, is this a slight edge for Ornn, I guess is what I'm asking, or do you really feel like he's just in a different class?
Cho'Gath, like the other tanks are good in their own way as well, but the thing is when Ornn is in the game and like when Ornn and Cho'Gath are in the same game, then even in laning phase, Ornn will always beat Cho'Gath, he will always get priority, he will always have like river control and river pressure towards mid lane. It's just really hard for like Cho'Gath to actually do something in that Ornn matchup, and even like later on in the game, it's just like if Ornn is out of the game and you have something like people want to play Camille, like for example Ornn into Camille is terrible for Ornn in a way, but Cho'Gath into Camille is really good for Cho'Gath because he just has a lot of sustain and a lot of damage, so Camille can't really do much, so this is kind of like a triangle of matchups that everyone has his like pros and cons, and for example that's why Cho'Gath looks so good into Camille, but if in that game there was Ornn in the game instead of Camille, then Cho'Gath would look pretty terrible.
Amazing. I'm curious what your impression is one of top lane in general, and 2 of Ornn just as a pick, because I mean the nerfs don't sound that significant from what you've said in a lot of senses, but is this a champion you feel like might still be a little bit too powerful?
I'm not quite sure. I think the CC that he provides, especially when Braum is not on the enemy team, is definitely broken. I think his ultimate is just too easy to hit, honestly. Like, it's too broad and it's too safe to actually land on enemies. But I also do think that right now, I think carry top picks are gonna come back into the meta, and I think actually gonna like contest the Ornn and contest the other tanks that are being played right now. And I hope to see that development, at least because they're already dog champs in the jungle. They don't need to be dog champs in the top lane.
I mean,
no more dog champs.
I agree with you, but like I would love carries to come back, and I think they can come back. But the only reason I see them to come back is if teams shift their tendency from picking top laners in the second pick phase in 4-5 and just start picking it in like 1, 2, 3. Because at this point you kind of lock in the Camille, for example, and then the enemy team has to respond with something like this more carry style as well. Because you cannot pick a tank into Camille because you will just lose. But if top laners are always picked in 4-5, then all you have to do is ban Camille, and then you have dogfight.
But what I mean, so I'm looking across a lot of the top lane champions that have been picked. We've had Alawi, we've had Lucian, Camille's one you bring up.
Oh, Alawi, I won with that champion.
Yeah. I wonder who would pick that. Of course, there's a player there. Jax, Jace, Vladimir's kind of fallen off a little bit out of favor here in Europe, but is still seeing some picks internationally. So to me, it seems so much more diverse than you're making it out to be. So I'm curious, like, is it actually just the pick order where it has to be 4-5? And is Camille the only threat there? Because we've seen Misfits even yesterday pull out a GP, do a ton of damage for the top lane. It seems to me like there are more options already. What really is like the best way to pick for top right now?
The thing is, like, from my perspective, obviously, and I think that may reflect his perspective too, is for the team, it's obvious that tanks are better. If the team operates towards bottom side, which should be the ideal case scenario, because that's how the meta goes, late game carries in Kotmar, Tristana, Caitlyn coming in on the bot lane, that feeding them and giving them resources is the way to go. So for a team like Splyce that obviously operates very bot lane heavy, or seems to be operating that way, it makes sense to focus on the tanks only and not care about anything else, because we've seen Vitality take a 20 CS deficit on the top lane just to bring the Camille pick through, or invest a lot of resource into the Jax pick so he gets fed early. So it's black and white for anyone that plays bot side. It's not black and white for anyone that plays a bit more loose.
Do you think it's fair to say that?
Yeah, I mean, I think what he says is pretty accurate. If you go carries, you kind of need to dump more resources into top lane in terms of like, vision or even like bans in the draft phase. But yeah, like the reason you see like so much, only Camille and Ornn is just, and you don't see as much Vladimir, for example, because I think Vladimir is good into like some of the carry matchups. We didn't see it as much in Europe, but I think Vladimir is like really, really good into both Camille and GP. But for example, us, we didn't get to play into Camille yet and all of that stuff. So yeah, it's just kind of like a triangle. There's always like this ladder in which if one is banned, you go to the next, and then that one has different counters. Like each champion has different counters. That's why it's just, I feel like top lane meta is kind of counter pick focused a lot. So if you can get like a counter pick in the draft, it kind of makes your job a lot easier. You don't need to like dump as much resources into top lane, because if you're kind of self-sufficient and you have a winning matchup, then you can kind of get all of that yourself and kind of impact the map. So yeah, I guess that's it pretty much.
It feels like there might be other options depending on how your team plays, but at the end of the day, a tank is still
like
just the safest
if
bet.
teams start banning like, Ornn or Camille or Cho'Gath, then you kind of start seeing more diverse top lane picks, because as I said, it's more towards counter picks. But if Ornn and Camille are always there, then you always have, there's always like one best pick into those champions. That's why you just see the same ones.
It's interesting how, up until that point, you talk about this triangle, how you can counterpick a little bit, but as long as Ornn and Camille are present, it changes things. I'm curious to see if that holds up in the drafts as we move forward, but for now, let's take a look at some of the highlights sent in by you guys on Twitter. Here are your LCS big plays brought to you by Acer Predator. All right, well, in their game against Schalke, No Fear, Vitality lured the opposition into a deadly trap in the mid lane. At Jaro III tweeted, "That was all planned from Jack Troll, well baited."
Gilius catching back up in the jungle, just about even in terms of experience, but there goes Jack Troll for the play. He's going to fumble. Cabo, hook shots in, but he's going to hold the wall dive. Now Schalke are looking for the turn, but they have to be careful because Gilius is over the wall. Looks like Upset's going to be a little bit more than angry as he's going to get taken down. This could just be the double. Schalke have no vision, and they are gone.
Look, guys.
I'm here behind him.
Can I get now?
I'm behind him.
Okay, I'm coming.
Oh, I fucked up. I fucked up. Can we turn again?
I'm still there.
Look.
What the fuck is happening? Holy shit.
We're fighting.
You guys are so good or what?
Nice, good job.
Go Drake.
Go mid.
I'm getting top.
Okay, There's so many people who are like, oh yeah, it was a bait, and then the comms kind of confirm a little bit. What's happening? I think to paraphrase what was exactly said there.
I think someone effed up.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure about that though. I think we heard it a couple of times. But yeah, like I don't think that was a bait. I don't think it was.
I mean, it was good adaptation though. I mean, okay, so from Schalke's side, what do you think is going through their head at that point? And should they have? Did it make sense for them to actually go in on that play? Because it's so funny to me.
I mean, LCS ultimate, he kind of gets tanky through that. You don't see anyone on the map, so you know there's no gain in the end, you know. So I don't know about that.
All right. Well, we've talked about Hans Sama as the new main carry for Misfits, and in their game versus Splyce, he managed to turn around a bad situation to get a great double kill. At ST Red Eye said, Hans Sama is a god.
Elder Drake will be huge for Misfits if they can get it later with the double Infernal. Oh, they stopped on Sama's recall.
Hold on a second. Kabi finding the dog all isolated. That's a lot of damage. Oh, he wins the 1v2. Can he get it? Kazing. He's got it. It's a double kill. Oh, but that was sick, man. Talk about a value play.
Holy moly, he killed Kabi in like 2 seconds.
Left side. Careful, Julian.
Yeah, we said
I need help, I need help.
I'm not there. You're alone. You're probably dead. Oh, what?
Okay.
What the fuck?
Alright.
No, but you get MVP for this.
Amazing's really upset that he doesn't get to drop F-bombs as much as the professional players on this broadcast.
I'm really struggling right now. I have it in me.
So when we, I mean, obviously Hans Sama, that's a crazy good play. It's bittersweet though, I think, for him is the loss comes through in the end. Kog'Maw, not a late game hyper carry, by the way.
Yeah, apparently Reddit has better insight than all of us pros and all of us analysts. So I don't quite trust them. I don't quite trust them as much because we definitely saw Kog'Maw spitting on some haters there. So I'm definitely impressed.
Odo, does it feel? Is it a good feeling or a bad feeling to watch a highlight play from someone that you just beat?
I mean, we kind of deserved it there because we
just flex.
Yeah, we kind of broke our hands there with that play. So I feel like we kind of deserved it just because we thought it was like a free kill and we're like, okay. And then Kasigo wills himself and I'm like,
oh man. Yeah.
Life. All right. Well, the final play earlier today, Vitality, Jizuke, and Cabochard were deep into enemy territory in their game against UOL. The Italian stallion seemed to be in a tough spot, but then he put on the dancing shoes.
Falls, and now White Knight might be caught out, but he eats Cabochard for breakfast, and he has to jump away. Zoe's got the flank. Here comes Exile. Cabo gets away with a great flash, and now Jizuke is caught on the wrong side of the fight. But we're going to see Exile split from White Knight here, and White Knight realizes that he hasn't got his top laner. Paddlestar on towards the minions, he gets away, and now we'll have to see the 1v1. Jizuke with no mana, Paddlestar, the smite's there as well, but the bubble doesn't connect, and Jizuke is doing wonders here. He's got no mana, but they have a TP. Cabochard's going to join this one, and Jizuke might be able to get away because Cabochard is on the chase. If Jizuke does this, this is the best play I have seen!
I'm going on shore,
Okay.
Yes, we can push mid,
Yeah,
push mid. We can even Nash here.
we're getting bot.
Yeah, keep pushing. We're gonna get a free Nash from this. Get mid.
Oh man.
Amazing's reliving some painful memories of his pro player experience there, but I mean, Jizuke just keeps doing it. 2v1ing on the bot side. TP comes in to save his life. And I feel bad for UOL because Fnatic were here just a week ago. They know the pain, man.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but I definitely know how it feels to not hit your skill shots. I think I've done it a couple of times. So, and doing it on stage especially is just you just want to throw away keyboard, your mouse, and just walk off stage ASAP.
Yeah, it's a rough life. All right, well, we're going to be back for more fights next Friday at 6 p.m. Kicking things off with the clash between H2K and Splyce. And Splyce, of course, going to be facing Vitality on the second day. Oda, how are you feeling, man? Are you ready? Is this the resurgence? Are you going to be smiting people left and right?
I'm betting on you, actually.
Yeah,
against videos.
Against my former team H2
I said you're gonna make it to playoffs, so you have to get some wins right now, man.
Yeah, like people say it's like still early in the season, but you know, in a week or two you're already halfway through, and if you don't start getting wins now, then it's gonna start being harder and harder, you know, in the coming weeks. If your record is pretty bad, then it's really hard to make playoffs.
All right, well, I'm excited to see what's going to happen. Excited to see what you can do against H2K and Vitality even later.
Gonna play some Maokai.
Forward to a dog chance and nothing else. Can you make that a promise?
I'm gonna play some Maokai, get counter-picked, not have any vision top side.
That's
great.
Run
You
it down
sound
a
so
bit.
excited about it.
I think he's just faking it. He's gonna ban Ornn, Maokai, and Cho'Gath first 3 bans, and then first pick Camille or something like that.
Or Rammus. Or Rammus. Finally see the Rammus. All right, over in Los Angeles, the LCS is about to start off their week with CLG and Echo Fox facing off in the first game. Ooh, Hooniverse Reignover. Let's go. Don't forget that we're having a rebroadcast of today's action in the EU LCS right after the last game in North America. All right, well, that was all from us in Week 3. Thank you. Join us back here for more games in the EU LCS next Friday. Until then, have a great night. And, of course, thanks to both of you gentlemen for joining me.
I'm forced to.
Yeah.
When you're relying on a player like Hold,
good job.
Is not to...
Oh, it might go so. Exo! Exo's going to get a 1v1! Jizuke might be able to get away because Caboshot is on the chase. If Jizuke does this, this is the best